right here in the center, as you see. The simplest reason is the drivers still have to be able to see out this rear view mirror. Now they've made up for some of that spoiler height difference with these winglets on the side. We'll be able to work with this area to try and balance out downforce for the race car drivers.
And speaking of drivers, what are they saying about this new car?
You know, the first comments were a little more front downforce. Really feels, you know, kind of like it really turns well all by itself with good air.
And Andy Petrie is upstairs in the broadcast booth where he's getting ready to call the race with Dale Jarrett and Marty Reed. Andy, first of all, thanks for the tour with Chad. For crew chiefs like Chad Walter, all of the challenges of running this new car at this track for the first time, what are some of the practical challenges they face?
Well, Alan, probably the biggest challenge they face is that splitter he was talking about. The key to performing well with this car is having that splitter absolutely as low as you can on the racetrack without hitting the ground. If you hit the ground, it kills your performance, and if you've got it up just a little bit, you're giving up something. So the thing is, if you can keep that thing down on the ground, that's what the name of the game is. And with the Nationwide car, they don't have bump stops to play with, so they have to do it in another way, and they coil bound the springs to do it, and it's pretty tricky, but it's very important.
Now, Andy, the new car for the Nationwide Series is more like the current Sprint Cup car than the older car is. Info trade back and forth. Does it grow? Does it stay the same? Where's that stand?
Well, Alan, when I was at Penske, the Cup crew chiefs and the Nationwide crew chiefs were all working together. I mean, physically working together on the setup pad with one of the Cup cars. So they have that information sharing going back and forth, and it will be valuable with this new car because it is more like the Cup car. Now, there are some differences that won't apply, but that working together, I believe, is one thing that's going to help this Penske team and all these Cup-affiliated teams get ahead with this new car.
All right, Andy, thanks for the look around at the new car. We'll talk to you a little bit for the race.
Okay, Al.
Justin Allgaier will drive that Chad Walter prepared Dodge from the 7th starting spot today. He's with Dr. Jerry Punch.
Thank you, Alan. You know, these cars are roomier and they're safer. And if you believe drivers like Justin Allgaier, they're going to be a lot more exciting to watch on the racetrack. Yesterday, you said with a smile, this car reminds you of the NASCAR Camping World truck you drove a couple of years ago. Why does that make you smile?
You know, I think the biggest thing for me is that the drivers really have to drive these things. They're a lot of fun. They move around a lot. You know, yesterday and the day before, we got a little bit of a chance to drive around some of the other cars, and just the way they react and the way that they handle really makes them a lot of fun, and I think that the race today is going to be one of the best ones of the year.
All right, you've had a couple of days in this car. What don't you know about this car that you wish you did?
Driving off into turn one in a field of cars. You know, that's probably the biggest unknown right now for us. Like I said, I got to run a couple of laps with one car around me, but really never, you know, got to run many laps with multiple cars. So obviously we wish we could have started a little farther up front, but Verizon Challenge has been really good. I feel like we got a really good race car, so it's going to be a matter of trying to get by some of these guys early and making sure that we get out there in that clean air, because I think that's what it's going to take to be competitive.
Hey, good luck today.
Thank you.
Alan, excited but a little bit antsy about some of the unknowns with this car.
Doc, thanks. Interesting comments there from Justin that I will also turn and kind of ask the same question to you, Rusty. At this point, what do the drivers know and what don't they know about running this car at this racetrack?
Well, I mean, the things that drivers do know, they know this is a safer car. They know it's a tougher car. I mean, the car is taller, it's wider, it's safer for the driver. And when I said toughness, you see the Sprint Cup guys bouncing these things off the walls all the time, their cars. Well, these Nationwide cars, I think they can do the same thing and get away with it. Now, when it gets down to handling, they don't really know how these cars are going to handle when they get in a mix of 43 cars out there. There's a lot of unknowns with this car, but there's a lot of great things about this car, Brad, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Oh, I absolutely agree. I'm so excited to watch this group pack of these cars get together and see what happens. But I think it's going to be interesting simply because of the bump drafting and the aero situations with these race cars. You're going to see bump drafting. Anytime you have experienced drivers in the field, they're trying to go as fast as they can. And unless you take the steering wheel away from them, they're going to bump draft. Everything else, though, is out the window. The one interesting thing I do like, NASCAR has given them some tunability in this race car by putting these winglets on the spoiler. And what they can do is adjust those things to create either a loose situation, tighten it up, or if you have a tight situation, loosen it up. I pat NASCAR on the back because that gives these guys something to work with on these good-looking race cars.
Don't know if we'll hear terms like aero tight. Don't know if we'll see the slingshot or not.
Yeah,
Some
you don't
folks
know.
think we might. Be interesting to see how this race unfolds at Michigan today. Now, Andy Petrie mentioned a minute ago, bump stops on the Sprint Cup cars, not on the Nationwide Series cars. A small but critical difference where tuning the chassis is concerned. For more on that, how about a little show and tell in the Craftsman Tech Garage with Tim Brewer. Tim?
Thanks, AB. To control the speed of the car as well as the front downforce, you have to control the height of the front splitter. But in the Cup Series, We simply have the Packers right here. We control the ride height by either adding or taking away these shims, and it's easy to control by 1/8 of an inch. But in the Nationwide Series, what we have, a conventional shock packer. We don't have any packers on here, this area here, but we have the installed inspection height spring, and what that is, it comes down, we compress that spring. We want the spring to look just like this to get the air dam as close as we can, the splitter in this area to the ground. By doing that, we're going to get downforce and speed out of the race car. Alan?
A couple different tuning tools for the teams to get used to. Tim, thanks very much. Speaking of getting used to, Danica Patrick is back on the NASCAR side of her season today. As if figuring out how to wheel one of these stock cars hasn't been challenging enough, pretty early on in the process, that type of car and how it feels and drives has changed on her. After 5 races in the old Nationwide Series style car, it's the first in the next generation machine for Patrick today. She starts 33rd, Mike Massaro.
And Alan, it has been a season of adjustments for Danica Patrick. The curveball this week, the new Nationwide car. What's it been like?
I actually don't know the difference between the new car and the old car. I was never here before in the old car. It's been a few years since I was here in an Indy car, so I think ignorance might be bliss. Sometimes it's nice to just get used to whatever you need to get used to and not have memories of what could have been in some situations. So for me, that's not a big issue.
You head into your 6th nationwide race. What's the mindset today?
Well, we had a little hiccup in qualifying. I got a little sideways around 3 and 4, so I think it would have been our best qualifying yet. At that point in time, it was going to be like 9th or something if I would have finished the lap, but instead we're much further back, so the Hot Wheels car has a little ways to go now. So I think my goal is just to try and stay away from going a lap down at the beginning. The further back, the harder. You start further back and then you're closer to the leaders. So, you know, it's going to be important to have a good start and find the line that has the most amount of grip and just keep my foot in it as much as I can.
Best of luck.
Thanks.
And Alan, Danica trying to improve on a career-best 24th place finish in Chicago last month.
All right, Mike, thanks. You saw the drop of rain on the camera lens there during the interview.
That's all
I'll tell
there
you
is.
that there are some showers in the area. The track is dry at the moment, and we continue. You see the shot from the blimp. Nothing imminent on the racetrack, but we'll be keeping an eye on that radar all afternoon. It could be a factor in this afternoon's race. Up next, the pressure of performing in the boss's hometown and how these new cars are helping one manufacturer shape its racing future when NASCAR Countdown continues from Michigan. The Michigan International Speedway from downtown Detroit. Take I-94 west to US 12, and in the Irish Hills you'll find this fast 2-mile track where the NASCAR Nationwide Series goes racing this afternoon. The interaction between the auto manufacturers and NASCAR racing has changed and evolved over the years, an evolution that continues with this next generation Nationwide Series car. I sat down with Ralph Gillies, the CEO of Dodge, and Roger Penske, one of the country's biggest auto dealers. They think change is good.
Let's talk about develop on Sunday, implement on Monday. How does the technology work from racing to street cars today?
Well, some of the work we've done at Aero, we've been really pushing a lot of aerodynamic development lately in the street cars, and we're actually using some of that technology in the race cars and back and forth. I mean, racing, the Aero's been a big deal now. Downforce has become a big deal with the car of tomorrow. So fusing this technology, and our engineers here are able to trade information back and forth with Mr. Penske's team, and it's amazing.
How important was it to Dodge, from a manufacturer's perspective, this car that's sitting behind you?
This is a dream come true. You know, a car with this kind of look, this really distinctive look, and we happen to make a very distinctive street car to put on this race car, so it works perfectly. It's a manufacturer's dream come true.
You are the Dodge representative in NASCAR racing right now. Advantages, disadvantages of being the guy with that one brand?
Well, I don't look at any disadvantages. We try to look at the advantages, and there's no question that we're getting 100%, 120%, in fact, of the commitment, you know, by Dodge, you know, for our race team. I think that's important, whether it's engine, whether it's aero, whether it's any of the dynamics that we're looking at from the standpoint of simulation. They're right in the middle of it with us. So we're fully committed, they're committed, and I think you've seen the performance on the track in the Nationwide, and certainly on the Cup side. I think we're very, very competitive, and that's a byproduct of our relationship with Dodge.
The relationship between manufacturer and race teams and racing. Interesting comments there. Rusty, how has that relationship evolved and changed over recent times?
Well, you always want to have a strong relationship, Alan, with the